Hello, welcome to online training for an Education Health and Care Plan, EHCP for short. Throughout each slide, you'll find a sound icon in the bottom right of each slide. This is so we can give a voiceover for each slide and explain things in a little bit more detail. You can always contact us after the end of the training if you have any further questions. These are some of the topics we're going to discuss throughout the training. So looking at the definition of an Education Health and Care Plan, who needs one, how to apply for an Education Health and Care Plan through assessments, timescales for the plan, each section of the plan, A to K, how the sections link and fit together, and further support and advice. Here is a definition of the Education Health and Care Plan, EHCP for short. It is a legal document. In it, it describes the child or young person's special educational needs, health needs, and social care needs. And it will show you the different types of support that are needed to be given to meet those needs. Does my child need an Education Health and Care Plan? Not every child with special educational needs requires an Education Health and Care Plan. This is often when the needs outweigh the provision of what the school can provide. This is a really good graph of different types of support that are available to young people. You look at universal support, which is generally for everybody who needs extra support. So early identification and reasonable adjustments made for the young person that can be accessed by anyone. SEN support, which stands for Special Educational Needs Support. So these are highly focused interventions and reviews with the plan of assess, plan, do and review. This can often be done within the school without needing an Education Health and Care Plan. Education Health and Care Plans are for the small population that possibly need further help to access what they need at school or college. There are a few stages available before you actually reach an Education Health and Care Plan. The 3 stages are described as first stage, the SEN support within the school or college. So every school or college has a designated fund to help young people that have special educational needs. This is where they can make reasonable adjustments, classroom assistance and a support plan. For example, creating a timetable, a visual timetable for children and young people. This doesn't really cost a lot of money and something that can be put in place fairly easily without a plan. When you look at the second stage, this is where ultimately the school needs to apply for Element 3 funding to support the child or young person further. So this is where they may get an additional top up for higher needs that they need to provide for the young person with special needs, possibly for more specialist equipment and things like that. If you reach the second stage and it's still not enough support that the young person needs, this is when you usually look at getting an Education Health and Care Plan put in place. Over the next few slides, we're going to look at the Education Health and Care Plan Needs Assessment, the statutory assessment. There are a few different people that can request this to the local authority. The school, the parents and carers of the child or young person, the young person themselves if they're aged 16 to 25, and other professionals acting on behalf of the child or young person. How to request a statutory assessment for an Education Health and Care Plan. As discussed, you as a parent or carer can do this yourself. You can also write a letter to the local authority requesting one, or you can use one of our model letters too. You just need to get in touch by email and we'll be able to send you this or directly via the website. When you have lodged a request, the local authority must reply within 6 weeks. There is a time scale for all of this, which we'll discuss later in the training. According to the Children and Families Act 2014, there are only 2 points that the local authority must consider when deciding whether to assess a young person for a statutory assessment for an education, health and care plan. Number 1, does the child or young person have or may have special educational needs? And number 2, whether they may need special provision to be made into a plan. These are the only 2 questions the local authority should be considering when assessing whether they should carry out a needs assessment. There are many different professionals that can be involved in the statutory assessment process. Some of these professionals include educational psychologists, GP reports, speech and language therapists, occupational therapists, and health and social care. Timescales. There are legal timescales that the local authority need to adhere to after receiving a request for an education, health and care plan needs assessment. Within 6 weeks of the request, the local authority will either agree to assess or refuse to assess. Either way, they should write to you to let you know. If it is refused, you can appeal this decision. Please get in touch for further information. If a plan is agreed, it should be issued and completed within 20 weeks of the local authority receiving the request for the needs assessment. Here is a breakdown of the different sections within an education, health and care plan. Here is how the sections are linked together. So if you think about it as a need in education, a need in healthcare, and a need in social care, these are all linked with the provision that will be put in place for each need under each heading: education, healthcare, and social care. For example, an educational need will be written in section B. The provision put in place for those needs will be specifically directly in section F. The same goes for healthcare needs, are described in section C, and the provision for those healthcare needs are described in section G. Same for social care, the needs are described in section D, and the provision for that is split out into H1 and H2. We'll go into further detail as we go through. Here's a really good diagram from the Council of Disabled Children to show why each provision is put in place. So at the bottom of the pyramid, the foundation, you have the provision that's put in place. The level up, that's put in place to support their needs. Their needs support their outcomes, and their outcomes support their aspirations. This is what the child or young person wishes for their own future. Section A, the views, interests and aspirations of the child and their parents or the young person. So this is the section where you get to have your input to the education, health and care plan. Your views and wishes can be recorded in this section, along with your child's story and what good support looks like to them. Section B, the child or young person's special educational needs. This information comes from the professional assessments that have been completed by the local authority and other professionals. In this section, it should detail each individual need under these specific headings: communication and interaction, cognition and learning, social, emotional and mental health difficulties, and sensory or physical needs. It's really important that you view this part of the education, health and care plan to ensure that all the needs of your child or young person is specified in this section, because it links with section F, which is the provision that will be put in place to support those educational needs. Section C, the child or young person's health needs. This information is gathered from professional reports that are obtained by the local authority from the health professionals responsible for your child or young person. This might include their diagnosis, if they have one, or any other health need or requirements your child has. This section also links with section G, which is the provisions that are put in place to meet your child's healthcare needs. Section D, the child or young person's social care needs. If there is anyone already working with your child or young person, for example a social worker, it will be described here. If you don't, it often states not known to social services. You will be offered by the local authority a social care assessment. Anything from that assessment will be put into this section in Section D. You can also request this at any time. Section E, the outcomes sought for the child or young person. Together with the school, the local authority, yourself as a parent and carer, and the child or young person, you should identify between 5 and 8 outcomes that are a good target for your child or young person to try and achieve. These should be SMART: specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-based. It's always a good thing when you receive the plan to check over Section E to make sure the SMART theory applies. Section F, the special education provision. This links with Section B, where the professional reports have identified your child or young person's needs. So Section F is all about the provision that they require to meet those needs. Anything identified in the professional report, such as recommendations for your child's provision, will be detailed here. For example, if in Section B, professional reports have identified a specific need, in Section F, you'll find the details of the provision to support that need. When you receive the Education, Health and Care Plan, it's really important to check over this section for the specifics and the wording to ensure that each need has a provision in place. So Section G is the healthcare provision. This links with Section C, the healthcare needs of the child or young person. So anything detailed in the professional reports with healthcare professionals will be listed in this area. It should state who is going to review and how often they will be reviewed by any healthcare services. Section H1. Section H is split into 2 parts, H1 and H2, for social care provision. Generally, under 18s come under the title H1. If there were any needs identified in Section D for social care needs of your young person, then the details of their provision should be in Section H1. For example, this could be a support group or access to outside agency support details. If you have had the social care assessment from the local authority, the details from that assessment will also be included here. Section H2, again following on from the social care provision, generally relating to over 18. Anything described in here for provisions that are not covered by the Chronically Sick and Disabled Persons Act, which includes any adult social care provision. Section I, the name and type of school. When you receive the draft plan from the local authority, no school will be named in this section. This is so that you can look with the local authority at the needs and the provision of your child or young person and decide which school is most suitable for their needs. You can express a preference for a particular school or college. Please find more details below. Section J, personal budget. Once a child or young person has an education, health and care plan, the local authority must ensure that the support set out in the plan is made for your child or young person. Normally, the local authority will do this by providing the necessary funding to the school or college in order for them to deliver the educational support needed. However, it is also possible for the local authority to consider making a payment to you as a parent or carer or your young person or a nominated person so that you can organise the provision yourself. This is called a direct payment. You can also receive payments in other ways, such as notional funds or held by a third party, or a combination of the above. There are limitations and a number of restrictions in law about what a personal budget can be used for. Please get in touch for further information. Section K. Advice and information gathered during the EHC needs assessment. Going through the process of a statutory assessment, you will have accumulated many professional reports that will contribute to the details and advice written in your child or young person's plan. Section K is where you will find a list of all the professional reports used in your child's plan, listed with the names and dates. So now we have gone through all of the sections of an education, health and care plan. What do you do with this information? Legally, the plan needs to be reviewed every 12 months and more frequently for under 5s. In the draft plan that you receive from the local authority, you can request wording or specifics to be amended or changed. Once this plan is made into a final plan, it is legally agreed. So if you don't agree with the plan, you will need to use the process of appeal. Please get in touch with us for more information on the appeal process. Making the most of an annual review. Here is a little bit of information about the annual reviews that must be carried out at least once every 12 months. This is to ensure that the information stays up to date and continues to support your child or young person. At the end of the review, there are 3 decisions that the local authority can make: to maintain the plan, to not make any changes, to amend the plan, and to cease the plan. The local authority will contact you on any decision they decide after the annual review. If you wish to know a little bit more about annual reviews, please visit our website, and we do have annual review training available online. Support and advice. Now you've completed the training, you may have some questions about your specific situations. You can contact us at Sendias on the details below. We are available through email, Facebook, Twitter, and of course on the phone. You can also visit the websites of Council for Disabled Children, the Local Offer, which is a local authority website, and also IPSI. Thank you.